This is the EEPROM of this instrument. This is a 27128, 16 kilobytes of code. I will try to find the disassembler in order to see the assembly code of this thing. So maybe we can find some interesting things inside the code. So I have reverse engineered a small part of this code from that line here to the end here. So actually this small code permits to drive the 7 segments display of the altitude display and the second one, which is the barometric or the altitude selector. So for that purpose there is a part of this instrument which is a bus extender 8243. So this part permits to get 2 8-bits data from only 4-bit data. So the 7 segments altitude is available on the register R5 here. So R5 is divided in 2 nibbles. Here this is the low nibbles, and the second part here there is a swap which permits to get the high nibble, and this is the same for the 2 others nibbles here, which is contained into the register R6. Okay, so actually here there is a set of the line RxD, for this is UART interface, but it is not used in this processor. So the disassembler has converted this IO to RxD, but actually it is not RxD. It is actually the port 3.0. And this port is interesting because this one is the clock of a counter. Okay, so this is the multiplexing stuff. So this permits to increase actually, to change the position of the digit. So this is probably a loop. And here we have the clock. And here, of course, we have effectively a small pulse. So this permits to. So this is the clock. So actually, I will change. I will provide a define of this thing. So the part is I 210. Okay, so it is only at this place. This seems normal. You have only one routine in order to display something. So this is a part of the multiplexing. So at this time we have a change of the display, of the digit actually. And we have another thing which is TXT. So this is the transmit line, but it is the same. So this is probably the reset of this part. It is a reset P30. This is TXD P3.1. P3.1. So this is P3.1. And this is a reset. Okay. So this is the reset, and as you can see, this is a jump to this line. Otherwise, we have a reset and we clear this bit here. So it seems that this bit indicates if the loop is finished or not, the end of the loop, or the end of the transfer, or something like that. It's interesting to see where this bit is set. And then we have a series of clear. This is the beginning of the code. Two interrupts are used. The first interrupt is the ENT0. This interrupt is provided by the ARINC 429 controller. And the second interrupt is the timer 2 interrupt, which is here. So let's start with the ARINC interrupt. So it is a little bit difficult because the controller is a specific part which was designed by Honeywell. It is impossible to find any documentation in the datasheet. This controller has 4 registers which are accessible using 2 address lines. The second address line is connected to the read-write input of the controller. So I try to add some comments on this thing, but it is difficult. So this is for the initialization of this controller. And after there are several lines of code. We can find here the altitude flag, which is reset on this line here, this move X. But it is difficult to understand the reason of this. I wanted to do this disassembly in order to find the conditions for the reset of this flag. But as you can see, there are several bit tests. There is one here. There are some other tests. So it is quite complex. There is also the reset of the vertical speed flag on this line. And this routine is very long. You can see this code. The end of the ARINC interrupt is here. The second interrupt is the timer 2 interrupt. The timer 2 is used for the multiplexing of the display. Let's have a look on this code. The register R2 is used for the counting of the digits from 0 to 7. On this function we have several jump tables, so depending on the digit. There are several tables with 8 entries here. R2 is always the data which permits to select one among 8 jumps. There is a simple load of R2 into A, then A is rotated on the left in order to multiply by 2, because one address here uses actually 2 bytes. And then there is a jump, a calculated jump with the offset of this table, which is dptr, which is initialized here, which is this address. And then the value of this address is added with the value of A, and then there is a jump on this particular, on one of this particular address. And then on this particular address, R5 and R6 represent actually two different digits, one on the vertical speed display and the second one on the altitude. So R5 and R6 are loaded with the specific symbols. So I don't know the different reasons here. We have sometimes an 8, for example. So there is another example here with a calculated jump. Here there are two different tables. So depending on the value of this bit here, 20h.2, the first table is used or the second one. And then there is a jump here, so depending on the digit, there is another calculated table here. Up to the 8 digits. There is another table of jump, so this seems to be the special annunciators that try to place a name on some data. There is another table, so this seems to be also some specific symbols, for example the comma. And I think I have stopped here because it is very difficult and it is very time consuming. It is possible to do everything, but after it becomes more and more difficult. And we have this table which is interesting. So this is the table which permits to have the decoding, the 7-segment decoding for the digit 0 to 9 and the minus sign, and there is also blank and the message fail here. So this is a coding table, so from the entry from 0 to 11, I think, you have all these symbols. It is more than 11 because we have 11 here, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We have 16 inputs. Yes, because the maximum anyway is 1 nibble of the data, so we can have maximum 16 symbols which are predefined. Otherwise there are also several tables with different message. So this is a fail, but in a different order. I don't know why. On the other tables we have different letters and figures. So this is a large table, but actually the disassembler didn't translate this as a table but as code. So this is also a part of the table, so it is very difficult. This is also normally, I think, part of the table. You see a NOP here, so this is a 0, so there is no sense to have a NOP on this part of code, so this is also a table. Also this pop here has totally no sense. This is the end of the code. So there is something interesting in the beginning. This is this function. So there is an utilization of the timer here. The port P2 permits to set some lines on the switches and the encoders. So this permits to know if a key is pressed or not. So the output port is set to 1. So then the timer is set at a value which is close to the overflow because we have F8 and something. And then there is a test of the carry of this counter here. So actually this small loop permits to detect if a key is pressed or not. But actually it cannot be the case because the value is set to 1. So if a key is pressed, there will be also 1 from this opcode here. So A should return every time actually a high level. This is why I wrote normally FF here. There is it's not a mask, but the high level is set to 1. So normally the value here is FF. So when after incrementation, the value will be 0. This is the normal case, and in this case, there will be a jump to to this address and to continue the code. Otherwise, if it is not 0, then there will be a jump to the start of the code, which is a reset actually. It is here, so the program will restart. So this permits to detect, I think, a failure in the switch, in the rotary switch, or in the push buttons. And there is also a timeout. So this permits to set the timeout. So here, if the carry is set, that is to say, if the counter has reached the maximum, then on this line there will be a jump to that line, and the code will continue. So actually there is a test of the switches during a given time. So if during this time we find that there is a low level somewhere on this thing, then there will be a reset. And after that there are some tests on the input of the instrument, which are accessible on the rear connector, and depending on the value, this thing are stored into some bit registers of the microprocessor here. The states of the switches and the rotary switches are also saved on memory for specific locations, for example 54 for this one, 55 for this one, etc. So everything is stored into some registers. And after we have the ARINC interface, which is initialized, etc. So this is very difficult. I tried to do it in order to understand why this thing is not activated, but actually it is very difficult. Also, I don't have all documentations about the ARINC controller. The task is very difficult, so I will stop there. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.